Hello, my name is Markou. Welcome to the Midnight Runners, where myself and some friends go to the cinema and see old movies to talk about them there and then. What we liked, what we didn't like, what's aging well and what's aging badly. Time is the truest test of whether something is good or not. We're on the hunt for forgotten hits, lost gems, unknown or unconsidered movies that you could probably find streaming today somewhere. I hope you enjoy it, and maybe if you become a fan, like and comment, you could join us on a trip. Why not? Let's pack out some cinemas. Welcome to the Midnight Runners. I'm traversing Leicester Square towards the Prince Charles Cinema, where I'm going to meet the other members of the inaugural Midnight Runners Club screening of Big Trouble in Little China. The other members of the Midnight Runners are Ed Stoppard, actor, Nick Duncalf, writer, producer, broadcaster, and we'll be joined later by George Potts, actor.
I was at Arsenal before I even realised. Right. So I was just like that. Like
So you nearly missed the rendezvous.
We're here now.
Gents, I'm with Ed and Nick. We're being joined by George later. Any thoughts before we go in and see Big Trouble in Little China? I mean, when did you last see it? Did you ever see it?
I have seen it. I mean, I'm thinking as a teenager, as an adolescent.
80s.
Probably once, but I might be getting it confused. Is there a plot line about girls with green eyes, or is that a different film?
Do you know, I've never seen it, and it's one of those, you go to the video shop, you go in to get Top Gun, Top Gun's out, you look around, you get something else. Big Trouble in Little China has Kurt Russell on the front, it looks like an exploitation movie, I don't know what it is, I never rented it, I've never seen it.
Right.
But I'm excited about it, it's John Carpenter, it's Kurt Russell. I have a small sun-kissed lemon and lime, please. Guys, anything else?
Yes, a popcorn.
Small, medium, large.
Should we go for medium mix? Medium mix, please.
What I'd like to do today is get your version of what happened. Oh, you mean the truth?
It was bad when I was 14.
Bring that down.
Did you fall asleep in that?
Nearly.
There was a moment when I nearly fell asleep. We've just come out from the screening. I'm with Nick and Ed, and it was, let's be honest,
Weak.
a disappointing experience, Ed.
Weak. I mean, even by whatever it is, mid-1980s, late 80s standards, B-movie, relative as Nick.
But it wasn't as. But Nick, it wasn't as low
fan.
budget as you think. When I looked at it on Wikipedia, it was quite a big budget movie.
What would it cost all the money?
What did they spend it on?
Probably on Kurt Russell and all the special effects and studio.
Special effects?
Well,
the smoke bombs.
But for the 80s.
The lightning coming out people's hands, that was very cutting edge.
That's true.
It's a little
there was a lot of wire work from those three guys with bamboo chandeliers. It was.
It just didn't.
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
it was patchy.
I don't think it was patchy.
You thought it was terrible. That's the first time you saw it, right?
Yeah. If I'd watched it on video, I guess I would have been okay.
If you'd watched it on video, like as a 14-year-old or whatever it would have been.
If it had been on special. If it had been in the special bin.
As I said when we were in there,
it's not good enough
it
to be
felt
cultured.
like the strands of movies to come, like Pulp Fiction, like Kill Bill. It had all those kind of elements.
But without the scripts and the dialogue.
I'm not sure.
It tried, didn't it? It was trying to have the dialogue.
Sometimes you're just thinking, this is meant to be.
It meant to be tongue-in-cheek and meant to be.
But a lot of it, you're not meant to think that it's tongue-in-cheek.
That was the problem.
Really weird tone,
you couldn't actually tell which bits were supposed to be knowingly tongue-in-cheek, and
I
which bits were hoping to be authentically action-packed and impressive, or genuinely laugh-out-loud funny. None of which it was.
I thought it was genuinely trying to be tongue-in-cheek the whole way through.
There was
probably was,
but it wasn't. But it wasn't working.
I'm not. No, I think, and to be honest, I don't care what Wikipedia says. The money, if there was money, it was not on the screen.
What they're basically taking is a kind of pulp template from the 30s and 40s, and they're updating it. And of course, there's moments where you're going to say that's funny, but when the boulder is rolling behind Indiana Jones, they actually do it seriously, and you're really, you know, Indiana Jones is a pulp. They're pulp films, right? Star Wars is a pulp film, right? When they get trapped in the trash compactor, and there's a couple of moments like that in Big Trouble in Little China, but they're too busy telling you it's a piss take, and so then you don't invest in it. There's a whole kind of litany of kind of lost opportunities for massive tension, which is he looks like he's going to fall into a well, and you think, how's he going to get out of this?
It's too easy.
He literally just pulls himself upwards.
It's too easy,
isn't it? He just sort of does it by... He basically uses...
And then it's over.
He basically uses core strength,
Just
essentially what he does.
Yeah.
The problem with that is
he
they get out of trouble too easily throughout.
There's a lot of moments where you think that's going to be it, and then seconds later they've solved the problem with no real...
It should actually be renamed Little Trouble in Big China.
That's Ed. That's brutal.
Everybody in it is Chinese or Chinese American, except Kurt Russell and Kim Cattrall, and all the way through there's a damsel in distress who doesn't even get to speak. She literally doesn't get a line.
No, not a single line.
And then for the last 20 minutes they go, actually I don't think anyone's going to care enough about a Chinese woman in trouble, so Kim Cattrall has to be in trouble as well. I was thinking about this the other day. It's that in the 80s all anyone talked about how the death of cinema was high concept, right? Was that doing an elevator pitch was killing cinema, and now you'd kill for that. You'd kill for that now, for the idea that you can explain a plot in a couple of lines. Top Gun, you know what that's about. Ghostbusters, you know what that's about. Coming to America, you know what that's about. Trading Places, you know what it's about. All these movies, you know what it's about before, and then during, and then after. Big Trouble in Little China, you get it in the title, but then you never know what the trouble is.
The big problem was you just didn't care. I just didn't care.
But Kurt didn't care either, and that was a problem.
Yeah, that was a big problem.
So Kurt keeps going, what the hell am I doing here?
I definitely don't need to see it again. Yeah, let's go for a coffee.
Nick, I'm now talking to Nick Duncalf, broadcaster, writer, producer, on connecting the two films.
There's no connection, but I'll tell you what I thought about when I was thinking about us seeing these two films today, which is that Being There was made in 1979.
This is tenuous, carry on.
And it was directed by Hal Ashby, countercultural director writ large. You know,
Harold and Maude.
Harold and Maude, The Last Detail. He'd had this massive hit with Shampoo, which went mainstream, but he was really he was a hippie before there even were such things as hippies, right? Big Trouble in Little China, 1986, that is only 7 years later. And those two films tell you, just in a nutshell, what happened between the 70s and the 80s, which is Being There, 1979 movie starring Peter Sellers. These days we have what we think of as awards films, and we have summer films, right? But when The Godfather came out in 1972, for about 3 years, that was the most profitable film that had ever been made in the history of cinema, and it won all the Oscars. So there's no division between the two. 3 years later, Jaws comes out. Movies weren't even big in the summer. They didn't make movies for the summer. In the summer, people were on holiday. The big budget movies were in the... Jaws changed everything, right? Star Wars 2 years later off the back of that. By the time you get to 1986, Big Trouble in Little China, they're already losing their way, but there's no film that's more 80s than Big Trouble in Little China, but it's only 7 years after Being There, which is still like the 60s just dying out in front of your eyes. Peter Sellers dies after that film. There's nothing like Being There after that. That's brilliant. By the time you've gone past that, suddenly, you're in the 80s, by the time, only 7 years later, which is crazy. That's like us now thinking about a film that came out in 2017, the difference between those two films. And that's just what changed in cinema, was that all those, you know, when all the lunatics took over the asylum in the 70s, Scorsese and Coppola and Hal Ashby was one of those ones. They took over and they had hits. They put them all in charge. But by 86, it's not just over, it's long over.
But is it not basically just cinema reflecting what had happened in culture? And we're talking America, of course, politically and societally. The 70s is just bleak. There's just not much to be optimistic about. And then you get Reagan, you get Dawn in America, of optimism of the 80s, and America kind of getting its mojo back and feeling kind of bombastic and arrogant and all the rest of it. And so the culture and cinema in this context just reflects that.
Yeah.
Important question: does anybody want these spare ribs?
I'm having another spare rib, yes.
George, you want one?
No,
Edge on it?
couldn't really.
I've got a very loose connection, very tenuous connection to John Carpenter.
Have you?
Yeah, which is this.
I once hired a carpenter.
No, it's stronger than that.
I own an album.
Carpenter made his name really in the UK with Precinct.
Assault on Precinct 13.
That's correct. Now that was distributed in the UK successfully, where it wasn't getting much success anywhere else,
Right.
by a distributor called Mike Myers, who is the...
Hang on, what? Is that why?
Hang on, yes. Carpenter's success was really due to what Myers did with the movie in the UK, and then it allowed it to become a success outside the UK.
Yeah.
And that's why he named the shape in Halloween
Mike Myers. Lovely.
Mike Myers. Now, his son is someone called Martin Myers.
Freddy Krueger.
No. Who worked with me on successfully self-distributing
Is that right?
Papadopoulos and Sons.
Wow.
He's a cinema booker and a champion for indie film. Now, another loose connection is George Korofas,
Sure, yeah.
who plays Uncle Spiros in Papadopoulos and Sons, is the bad guy in Escape from LA.
Oh, Escape from LA.
Yeah, with Kurt Russell.
Carpenter's comeback. Very good.
Tenuous little links there.
That's amazing, though.
Not that tenuous.
We're now in the basement of the Prince Charles Cinema, waiting to go into see Being There. Nick, any thoughts before we go in?
I'm just looking forward to it after Big Trouble in Little China, because suddenly the fact that we're going to see two massively different movies is now an asset, isn't it?
It really
Now that
is.
we've had our little break for some food in between, suddenly it feels like.
But
I'm
how
ready for it.
was the Chinese?
It's a bit
Does
weird. It was a bit weird being in Chinatown, having just watched a film entirely
thought
set
that
in
was-
Chinatown.
I thought that was quite a nice,
It was
sort of,
appropriate.
immersive experience. I've not seen this film in maybe 20 years.
No, me neither. Me neither. It's exciting. It's nice to see a film that you've seen before and you know it's good. At least I think I know it's good.
Life is a state of mind.
We've just come out the screening. It's a rainy night, and I have to say, guys, I was quite blown away by that movie.
Oh yeah, cracking.
I mean, it actually got much better than when I saw it 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think even more relevant now. The one thing I noticed, which I never noticed before, was just how important the constant TV.
Oh, the TV's amazing, isn't it?
The TV is constantly playing, and it's almost like a commentary on culture. And it's more relevant now than when I saw it 25 years ago.
Well,
and
also of its kind of ever-presence.
yes, ever presence, and also its stupidity.
Yeah.
And with social media now, it felt a very powerful film. I was blown away by the cinematography and the colour palette
We
and
saw it
the
in the right
framing.
month. We saw it in October. It's
Yeah,
an October film, isn't it? Doesn't it look gorgeous?
It's an absolutely stunning film.
It said it was in North Carolina.
Every single performance is stunning.
Melvin Douglas won for best
Melvin
supporting
Douglas was
actor.
funny, and all of that, just that that cast of brilliant American character actors, and Shirley Maclaine.
Oh, she's extraordinary.
Wow.
Spent a lot of time during the film trying to figure it. Every time she was on screen, I was thinking, well, how far is this from the apartment? Because the apartment, that kind of crisp black and white, kind of golden age movie, but it's only like
10 years?
I don't know, 15, must be 15 or something, but it feels worlds apart. But she's still
Yeah.
young and she's brilliant.
There's something quite clever about it, which I guess, and as it was meant to be, an indictment of American society at that time, but it does fit just about now. There ought to be kind of numerous moments where you just don't buy it. but actually somehow it's kind of so skillfully crafted, but also because
just when you think it, they turn it.
just when you think, oh no, the credibility is just going to crumble here, it just doesn't. It just maintains it.
It's so cleverly done, isn't it?
And also because it's by necessity, but also because it's a sort of characteristic of the time, it's really quite spare.
Yeah, it's really
Really
You know,
spare.
not
much happens.
It's not much.
They
It's
could
a
have
very
turned it
lean
into
movie,
more of
but
a
so
farce, and
it's
they
watching
don't.
a
They
kind of
never make
brilliant
it
sort
too
of
funny.
balancing act. It is like watching one of those kind of human pyramids or something, where they're all just keeping it together,
Just on the right
and so,
side.
And so the screenwriter and the director and the
PSL's
performances,
performance.
everything is just kind of
There's that bit near the end where he's
to
kind of
maintain
doing a
the
yoga
kind of
position on the
plausibility of
bed.
it.
Well, that's
And it
the
goes
bit.
the bit where he's doing the yoga position on the bed,
yeah.
and it's brilliant physical comedy, but it
Yeah.
never makes you feel like he's trying to get a laugh out.
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, yeah.
It's still it's so
Well,
ridiculous.
the good
but it's
thing
still
is that by that
consistent with
point
the character.
you know the
he
character
copies.
well enough.
Yeah, that's it.
That it doesn't feel ludicrous. It doesn't feel forced. You just think, oh yeah, of course.
I'll tell you what I worried about as well. I worried because I remember people saying when Forrest Gump came out that Forrest Gump was a kind of slight retread of this film being there that people had kind of slightly forgotten about, and then there was Rain Man, and you feel like this is a film actually in the 21st century about a guy on the spectrum, and you feel like if I'm watching this again, is this actually going to be taking the piss out of that? And actually it kind of never does.
No.
There's
It's 'cause
nothing
it's 'cause
explicit
there's
about
nothing-
what's going on in his head. Nothing. You're never given. You're waiting for a doctor to say this guy's a loony, but you don't even get that. You never get anyone.
It's kind of on the periphery, isn't it? Because obviously you have the doctor with his suspicions, and the journalist, the lawyer rather, and the journalist.
because at the heart of it, there's a part he plays which is he kind of heals everyone around him.
Yeah, so even when he's saying these things that you know is completely Emperor's New Clothes, you're sort of happy to buy into it as well.
Yeah, unless you were the maid in the house,
But if-
which was a great bit of
That
commentary,
great scene, and
wasn't
she
it?
says this boy had
It's
rice
like
pudding
really
in his
stood out.
head. But even then, you don't feel like that's what's wrong with him. It's like what's wrong with
Correct.
white
Everyone else.
society
Yeah, yeah,
that they're
totally.
taking this guy seriously.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
absolutely
It's
right.
he's never the target.
Yeah. His dignity remains intact right to the very end.
Can I just say,
Go on.
did the lawyer look like Andy Murray?
Like a slimmer, taller Andy
Was
Murray.
it? All I thought was, what the hell is Andy Murray
little
doing
bit.
in this?
Well, I think that wraps up a very good day for the Midnight Runners.
What a day.
What a day! I mean,
It
we've.
might turn out this is our thing. Watch something shit and then watch something brilliant.
Well,
Yeah.
well, we didn't know it was going to be shit,
yeah,
did
that's
we?
true. You can't.
I
switch
think
it.
if
The
we
shit
were honest
thing
with
could be the
ourselves, we
great
must have
thing
had a
and the-
sneaking
But the
suspicion.
idea of the idea of two films in one day
completely different.
that are completely different is interesting.
It's interesting.
But you managed
Although
to
it's-
find a link.
It's also
between-
time consuming.
But can
Yeah.
we? Yeah, it is time consuming. But can we find a difference that isn't shit and brilliant?
Well, we didn't know it was going to be that shit, did we?
Mark's
That's
right,
fine.
there just
I'm
needs
going
to
to
be
let that
different.
go. I'm going to let that slide.
We can go for just
I'm gonna
different
let that slide.
genres.
But can we just
But I
next time
kind
if
of
we do a
enjoy-
double bill? But I would say that I would prefer if the USP of this podcast wasn't we see one shit film.
No, that was
Low
not.
and
That's
high
not the
is what
USP.
you're-
Yeah.
We
I
really
know
didn't.
it's not-
We
That
thought
was
it
not
that
our
was just
goal.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
It was just unfortunate.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Teething problems. Listen,
We
it's through
thought
baby
John
steps.
Carpenter, Kurt Russell. We thought it was going to be great.
Kim Cattrall. I mean, you sort of think, how can this not work?
I mean,
But somehow it didn't.
anyway, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think that's a wrap for this evening.
Excellent.
I'm just leaving Rains Park Station, and I thought I'd give a postscript note because I can't stop thinking about being there. It's such a powerful film, and I still can't get my head around how a film made in 1979 can speak about media culture today in 2024 in such a powerful way. The other thing I loved about this film, and it's a story structure I absolutely adore, is that of the travelling angel. I mean, in its most obvious form, that's Mary Poppins, where she flies in and changes the family and flies out again, or Nanny McPhee. And we see this story structure in other films, and effectively Peter Sellers' character is that travelling angel. He brings the best out of everyone he encounters by effectively being a mirror to the person he's interacting with. And it doesn't matter whether it's the guy in the elevator that takes him up and down, who he kind of constantly makes laugh, and the elevator guy is always waiting for his next joke, or whether he's advising the President of the United States on how to proceed forwards with a vision for an entire nation, and everyone in between, including, importantly, helping a dying man face death with dignity and no fear, as well as becoming a companion to a lonely woman, and also bringing her sexual healing without engaging with her physically, and freeing her. It doesn't matter who Chauncey comes across, because he is this mirror that creates space for the person he's interacting with to find the answer within themselves. It is quite beautiful, and in so doing he is like a magician, and that magician character is shown to us on screen when he magically walks across the water, because he doesn't even know he is that magician. He's utterly bemused by his own magic when he puts his umbrella into the water to see how this is working. It's beautiful, it's incredibly powerful, and it has rocketed up into my favourite films. That was The Midnight Runners with me, Ed, Nick and George. We hope to see you again. Until then, goodbye.